I've been a Bitcoiner since before Bitcoin was even created. So I'd say basically like '05, '06 is when I kind of really started to understand how, the fiat monetary system works, the history of it, Bretton Woods, central banking, all that stuff. So I didn't even know I was a Bitcoiner until I started buying and studying Bitcoin in about 2017. That's when it made its run up. And I realized this whole time, I was like, wait a second, I already understand what this thing is without even
Yeah.
taking the time to understand it. So first time I heard about Bitcoin was 2013, completely ignored it. I came from a traditional, financial background, finance degree, all that good stuff. And I kind of just dismissed it as kind of what everyone still somewhat dismisses it as in 2025 today. And that's just kind of like, it's just made up, whatever. This is just some new sort of digital beanie babies, right? Not to that extent, but that's kind of what I thought about it.
Mhm.
And then when you actually start to study it and realize like, oh no, this is the greatest form of money ever created. And then you really start to get that conviction and all those second and third and fourth order effects that happen after understanding sound money, right? So started buying in basically late 2017, early 2018. I'm more of a dollar cost average kind of guy, even though I have lump summed many, many times. I believe what every other Bitcoiner believes is that it's going to keep going up and to the right, right? Number go up technology. And I always try and say that tongue in cheek because even though it is kind of a meme, it really is, knock on wood, the truth because of the limited supply, as we all know. So with all that being said, my journey, has been in kind of dipping my toe in both traditional finance and also sound money. So I kind of just, what I tell people is I play both sides of the game. I teach people financial literacy in the fiat world. I also bring up Bitcoin and sound money, and it's kind of up to my audience or whoever I'm talking to kind of just make their own decision because to this day, man, in 2025, people still don't understand Bitcoin and they still think it's literally digital beanie babies. So it is what it is, and everyone gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve.
It is really wild. That's we were talking offline a little bit again about the Revolutionary War and this happening. Just do you think that it's going to be just bread and circus till things fall apart and just hey, we're just going to keep kicking the can down the road as far as we can perceivably go? I mean, look, you have the Doge stuff. I mean, they're trying to get rid of fraud, at least from what we can tell. I mean, none of us can verify or audit any of this stuff, which is the irony in all of this. And that's why
Mhm.
Bitcoin's so amazing because it's audited itself every 10 minutes. But they wanted to get rid of fraud and you couldn't even get that done. Like I thought the world was about to end because people are trying to get rid of fraud. So are people, they don't even understand the system we're in now, like we've talked about. So is this something where we need a couple more percent of people to educate the people who have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, and that's who's going to pull us across the finish line? Or like how does this monetary transition plays out? As we talked about Scott Bessent too, like these guys are actively pushing. It looks like a sound money standard eventually, like a neutral world reserve currency, a neutral world reserve asset. Like where are we headed in the coming years here?
Yeah. So to answer the first part of your question, is it going to be bread and circus forever until we're, literally, it's like Wally, where you got the VR on your face and you're in the,
Yeah. Oh,
you're
scary
in
you
the
brought that up.
wheelchair. Yeah. Amazon's just delivered to you by drone. So to answer that part of the question, here's the way that I look at it. So if you look at, other empires, right? If you look at like Spanish Empire, British Empire, Russian Empire, whatever you want to call it, people in London aren't living in tents, rubbing sticks together to, light their, stoves and
Yep.
cook dinner, right? They still have
Yep.
some okay quality of life. Okay. Even though London has changed, I have cousins in London. I'm just using that as an example because that was the last, empire. You have the Dutch Empire, right?
Mm-hmm.
People in Amsterdam aren't sitting there living in tents, making
No.
fires and, trying to survive. These people still have decent qualities of life. So I think whether America is in late stage empire or not, whether China's next or whoever's next, it doesn't matter because we're still going to have a decent quality of life here. Okay. I still believe that the United States in general is still the best country in the world to make something of yourself in one generation. You may not be able to do that in other continents or parts of the world. So I still believe in that. Hey, America's number one for opportunity, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Where I do see it being kind of still bread and circus is, people don't even know what money is, as you alluded to earlier. So I have a personal finance channel. Okay. I have 1 million subscribers on YouTube. I've been doing this for years. I've talked to million people, whether it's through comments, DMs, directly, social media, whatever. I've been teaching financial literacy online for almost 10 years now. I started my channel in 2017, and I've been a student of finance since basically 18 years old. I'm 37 now, so almost 20 years. I would say that 70 to 80% of people, just genuinely don't understand money in general. They're like, oh, what's a 401k? What's a Roth IRA? I think that's been getting better over the last 10 years. But even the 20, 30% that do understand money, they don't understand sound money. That's maybe a very small percentage of the population. So the way that I look at it, the mental exercise that I do is that if I was in a football stadium or a sports bar or a restaurant, I ask myself, out of this group of people, who can explain Bitcoin well? And that's maybe 1, 2, 3%. Some people may have heard of it. Some people may know what it is, but to actually be able to teach it to someone else shows that you have an understanding of what this thing is. So I still think we're at very, very, very early adoption. And I don't think we'll ever get to 40, 50% to, the people that can hear and see, to your example, just because people don't even understand the current monetary system, period. Whether it's US dollars or Bitcoin, people just don't understand money. It's not really how they operate. They're more interested in when are the Pittsburgh Steelers playing? When are the Browns playing? When are the Indians playing? Sorry, Guardians 2025, not Indians. All I'm trying to say is for it to become mainstream adopted, it needs to come from above. And above typically has been the Fed, the government, some force that just kind of forces it upon you, right? People don't understand, hey, I get paid every 2 weeks in US dollars. Now what do I do with this, magic money that was just ACH transferred into my bank account, right? Bitcoin is going to have to become that. It's just going to have to be forced upon people. And when I say forced, I don't mean literally forced. I mean, it just needs to become financialized. And that's where a lot of Bitcoiners don't like when I say that, because Bitcoin has always traditionally been plan B, opt out. It's the only true way we can opt out of this fiat system that we're currently in. But it needs to be the Trojan horse, in my opinion. So that's happening now through Wall Street. It's happening through BlackRock, Fidelity, Van Eck, all these big brokerage houses. And it's also happening on the corporate scale, Bitcoin treasury companies, also potentially with bit bonds on the federal level. So that all needs to become in the mix, because that's how humans operate today. And the paradigm needs to shift from, okay, I get paid in fiat every 2 weeks, to, hey, I can still invest in Bitcoin through my 401k, through my Roth IRA, through more traditional means. And I understand that that's controversial because it's still keeping Bitcoin within that financial system. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be a grassroots movement, dude. We've had it since 2009. 99% of people still don't know what Bitcoin is. And I know that's going to upset a lot of people, especially on this podcast, but I think it's the honest to God's truth.
Yeah. You touched on something massive. I think this is a story of our time, to be totally honest. It's the 3%. It's this revolutionary, cadre of people we need to find. And I don't know the answer. And I've had pushback because I've asked a lot of people this. It's like, what do you want in a crypto or, a Bitcoin bill? What do you want in to see no capital gains on Bitcoin taxes? And, one of my, like the Bitcoin Way, incredible group of guys, they sponsor the show. They're like, this is a new system. Like the F off government. I don't, get out of here or whatever. And then you have a lot of people that are, like we just said, Jack Muller's on stage in Prague, and he's obviously has a company. He's like ingrained in the financial system, but he's also giving a tear jerking, like F the government, blah, blah, blah speech, so it's like this weird world that Bitcoiners live in. It's very hard. And like, I come down the side of like that Bitcoin ethos, like we said, like the revolutionary, like our backgrounds are like, I wanted to be a fighter pilot or Navy SEAL growing up, but that's kind of changed. I don't know if I would do that now because my thoughts have changed for who I'm fighting for, what's actually happening. But
exactly,
that's my like revolutionary, the man inside you wants to do that, like F off government. But like unless you get the Trojan horse inside there, like if we're taxed to death right now, currently inside this fiat system, and I'm losing my Bitcoin because I'm trying to use it, how do you square that circle? Like, I feel like you have to get the Trojan horse in the wall somehow for you to sneak attack on the government, take down the central banks. Like, how do you create a separate system outside of everything and then like have everyone do it? I mean, you could theoretically, might, but maybe it takes 50 years, 100 years. Like, do we all die in the process and like it just peters out? Like, I don't know. So I would love for you to like just tap into this a little more, like unpack some of your thoughts, because I feel like this is the argument of our time, basically.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. So my ethnicity, I'm born in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm American, but my ethnicity is Serbian. Okay. Everyone knows about, Yugoslavia. It
Yeah.
was basically the EU before the EU was a thing, right? It was Southern Slavic states all put together, similar to how United States has 50 states. This had, I can't remember the exact number. Let's call it 7 or 8 states, right? So they went through a big civil war. A lot of it was due to geography. It's a mountainous area. Some cultures get divided through religion, through, whatever. Anyway, my point is, when you study like the breakup of a country like that, their money went through hyperinflation. I remember as a kid, I was like 9 years old. I was holding like million dinar bills, like million. People would go to the store to buy bread with 1,000,000 dinars. You know what I mean? And now, the money's obviously stable. It's actually a really nice place to go to.
Yeah.
But in the 90s and, late 90s, early 2000s, that whole country was disintegrated. So to your point, people that didn't want to go to arms basically had to go to arms in certain villages. No one wanted to pick up an AK-47 and go fight for their country, but they had to. In America, in my opinion, it's way too stable and life is way too easy. So think about it this way, you have children, I have children. Am I going to go fight in the U.S. Army to go fight for someone else's wars overseas? Of course not. Am I going to go pick up arms, and choose to go fight when I have 3 hot meals a day, hot running water, right. My kids, all that stuff? Of course not. Why would anyone do that? But it doesn't come to that until it comes to you, until you have to pick up the metaphorical AK-47. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So with all that being said, I think life is still incredibly easy in the United States and also in the West in general, to where people have to manufacture movements to fight for. It's in every human that they want to fight for something. But some of these fights are very artificial, in my opinion.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.